Jason Hale, a 17-year-old male, with grease-smudged hands and a determined gaze, stood beneath the flickering fluorescent bulb in his family's cramped bicycle repair garage. He murmured to himself, "Every bolt has a story," as he tightened the last nut on a battered frame dropped by a neighbor. Shadows of rusted tools lined the walls like silent witnesses to his solitary devotion. Outside, twilight bathed the dusty window in orange light, and distant laughter drifted in from the street, friends celebrating a high school football victory he'd never attended. In that moment, Jason felt the weight of every missed invitation, every whispered insult about his mechanic dreams instead of college plans. His jaw clenched as he recalled Principal Ward's lecture. Practical skills don't pay off in Silicon Valley. Yet in his chest a spark ignited, fueled by injustice and unspoken pride. He imagined an engine of his own design, one that would soar beyond mocking whispers. As he wiped sweat from his brow, his heart thrummed with a vow. He would prove them wrong, transforming simple bicycles into something extraordinary. Each morning, Jason pedaled his beat-up Schwinn to the outskirts of town, where Mr. Ortega's scrapyard of discarded electronics lay in rust-stained pile. He greeted the 90-year-old Hispanic mentor. "Buenos dias, señor." As the sun rose, they disassembled old motors and batteries, wiring salvaged parts into model propellers. Ortega chuckled. "You've got an engineer's mind," and Jason felt a surge of validation, his heart fluttering like the whirring rotor he held. He spoke softly. "One day these will lift more than just bicycles." The yard's clanging symphony echoed every doubt he'd faced at school. Mockery, low expectations, desert dust swirling around whispered jibes of weird inventor kid. But here his ideas took shape in copper coils and circuit boards. Under Ortega's patient guidance, Jason's hands sketched flight in mid-air, merging teenage hope with mechanical prowess. By noon, the prototype hovered 2 inches above a crate, trembling like a newborn bird testing wings. His grin was unstoppable. In that moment, he believed the sky itself would yield to his ambition. At school's bicycle club, Jason unveiled his miniature drone prototype, its rotors slicing the air in a nervous buzz. Classmates exchanged smirks when he proclaimed, "Imagine rescue drones delivering medicine to remote villages." Kara, the popular captain of the cheer squad, laughed. "Why don't you fix our wheels instead?" His cheeks burned as whispers cascaded around him. "Freak, show off." The physics teacher sighed. "Focus on fundamentals before fantasies." Jason swallowed anger, recalling Ortega's words. "Vision is earned in sweat." He lifted his chin and replied quietly, "Fundamentals built this," tapping the drone's copper frame. Though his voice trembled, his resolve steadied. While laughter rippled, a spark ignited in Jason's chest brighter than ridicule. He would turn each doubter's scoff into silent awe. One late afternoon, Jason trudged past the empty gym, where posters of college scouts fluttered. He paused beneath a banner reading, "Scholar Athlete Excellence," feeling the unspoken gap between his dreams and their world. Suddenly, Mei Lin, a 16-year-old female robotics club president, called out, "Jason, wait!" She extended a blue-inked flyer. "Regional STEAM Expo. Applications due Friday." Her bright eyes and confident stance radiated possibility as she added, "You belong here." He hesitated, voice low, "I'm not sure they'll accept my hobby." May smiled. "They accept vision, not just grades." In that silent moment, Jason sensed a new path opening, as though the dusty garage and mocking laughter had led him straight to this invitation. His pulse raced. For the first time, he felt seen beyond grease and gears. That night, under a bell-jar lamp, Jason sketched futuristic drone designs across blank pages. Whirring fans, articulated arms, solar panels folding like wings. Each stroke whispered freedom. He whispered to himself, "I'll build what they said couldn't exist." Outside, cicadas droned in rhythm with his heartbeat as he mapped circuitry, dreaming of distant peaks where his machines would soar. Fear knotted his stomach. Failure loomed like a hungry wolf, but excitement pulsed stronger than doubt. He pictured May's encouraging smile, Ortega's proud nod, and felt the raw power of possibility surge through his veins. With trembling fingers, he sealed his notebook, eyes shining. His teenage heart brimmed with boundless ambition, poised to reshape the sky itself. Jason Hale stood in the echoing convention center foyer, fluorescent panels reflecting off polished floors, as he clutched his prototype drone in a foam-padded case. He inhaled, tasting nervous excitement mingled with the metallic scent of solder still lingering on his fingertips. Behind him, clusters of students in matching club jackets chatted about flashy robots and 3D-printed exoskeletons. He heard a distant roll of laughter when someone whispered, "That kid with the bike parts thinks he can fly." His chest tightened as he remembered Ortega's encouragement and May's faith in his vision. He squared his shoulders and whispered, "This is for every bolt turned in darkness." As he entered the main hall, his heart hammered against his ribs, while his eyes flicked to the judge's table, draped in navy cloth and bristling with clipboards. The drone's sleek carbon fiber arms gleamed under spotlights, each rotor gleaming like tiny suns, ready to rise. Jason set his case on a folding table, hands steady, despite the storm of doubt roaring in his mind. He lifted the lid, ready to let his creation speak. As the judges approached, Jason triggered the prototype startup sequence, and the 6 rotors spun with a hum like distant thunder. A hush fell over the exhibition floor, until the drone rose 2 feet above the table, hovering with barely perceptible sway. He explained clearly, "Autonomous medical delivery for remote regions," voice firm despite racing pulse. One judge, a sharp-suited middle-aged man with folded arms, frowned and asked, "What's your background in aerodynamics?" Jason paused, recollecting late-night research and endless trial flights. He answered, "I taught myself from open-source journals and hands-on testing." The judge exchanged a look with his colleague and scribbled notes. Without meeting Jason's eyes, the judge said, "Impressive for a hobby, but not ready for real-world use." The judges moved on, leaving Jason's case door open like a wounded chest. His shoulders slumped as the drone's hum faded into background noise. Around him, other students polished cameras on their projects. Her laughter felt like a knife, this time directed not at his dream, but at its fragility in their world. After the expo, Jason trudged across the empty parking lot under a bruised sunset sky, his backpack heavier with disappointment than tools. He replayed every judge's word like a broken record in his mind, each phrase deepening a hollow ache in his chest. At home, his mother peered into the garage with concern. "How did it go, Jason?" He forced a half-smile, voice rough with regret. "They said it's a nice toy but not real engineering." She sighed, tucking a loose strand of hair behind her ear, "Maybe focus on college applications instead." His grip on the drone's carry case tightened until his knuckles whitened. He recalled the countless evenings he'd sacrificed sleep and social life to reach this moment. His voice cracked as he replied, "This is my path." But inside, fear gnawed at his resolve. As he set the case down beside the workbench, the clink of metal sounded like failure, echoing in the silent garage. He stared at his sketches pinned to the wall, each page a promise of what could be. The next morning at school, Jason carried his backpack and drone case like burdens sewn into his shoulders. In the hallway, a group of students barred his path, sneering, "How's your toy flyer? Crashed yet?" His heart squeezed, but he lifted his chin and replied evenly, "It flew." Their laughter swelled until Mei Lin appeared, stepping between them. She said firmly, "Back off." The crowd parted, surprised by her fierce gaze. Jason's breath caught as disbelief and gratitude lit his chest like dawn breaking darkness. One sneerer muttered, but the jeers fell silent as May offered Jason her hand. "Come on, robotics meeting." He slipped his case under his arm, voice quiet, "Thanks." In that moment, the embers of shame cooled beneath a new warmth of camaraderie. Jason realized he wasn't alone. His vision had allies. That evening in the robotics lab, Jason joined May and 5 other club members gathered around workstations, each lit by adjustable arm lamps. The air smelled of solder and hot plastic as he unpacked his drone. May leaned close, voice low, "Let's upgrade your control board and add GPS stabilization." His chest tightened with excitement as he replied, "I sketched a circuit layout. Let me show you." Under glowing lamps they bent over green PCBs and soldering irons, sparks flying like fireflies dancing in a jar. Conversations overlapped, coding logic, motor torque, signal latency. Jason's doubts receded with each shared insight and encouraging nod. By midnight, the drone's rotors thrummed with renewed precision in a confident hover above the table. He smiled, voice soft, "We did it together." The hum resonated through the lab like a victory anthem, forging the bonds of friendship and fueling his drive to soar beyond every limit. Jason Hale entered the sunlit cafe in downtown Phoenix, the late morning glare bouncing off polished terrazzo floors. He carried his upgraded drone in a carbon fiber case, heart pounding like a humming rotor. Across the small round table sat Mr. Patel, a 45-year-old male angel investor in a navy suit, reviewing schematics on a tablet. Jason inhaled the aroma of brewed espresso and desert air, recalling Mei Lin's words, "Believe in your own design." He set the case down and said, "This version adds AI-guided stabilization and solar recharge panels." Patel tapped a finger, lips pursed, and asked, "What's your projected flight ceiling?" Jason's throat tightened, but he replied, 30,000 feet with payload. Outside, a breeze stirred, tumbleweed past the window in slow motion, as if the desert itself held its breath. Jason met Patel's gaze, voice steady, "I'm ready to prove it." Patel nodded once, then said quietly, "Show me." In the robotics lab's annex beyond school hours, Jason and Mei Lin gathered under harsh fluorescent lights to integrate Patel's feedback. They soldered miniature photovoltaic cells onto the drone's dorsal panels, while the lab's air conditioner hummed in the background. Mei 16 adjusted the neural net control board and said, "This firmware will adapt in real time to wind gusts." He nodded, wiping sweat from his brow, and replied, "Let's run diagnostics." On the workbench, the screen flickered as code lines scrolled past. Overhead, suspended tools cast long shadows on concrete floors. Jason's pulse sensed with the beeps of pre-flight checks while Mei updated the trajectory algorithm. At midnight, the drone's hover calibration read flawless. Jason exhaled and whispered, "We're ready for field test." Mei offered a proud smile under her safety goggles. Before dawn, Jason drove to a remote desert plateau where the horizon burned in violet and rose. He unloaded the drone onto a weathered wooden crate, while Mei monitored telemetry on a tablet. The cool pre-dawn breeze carried soft cactus scents as he positioned the prototype. Jason pressed launch and 6 rotors whirred into life, kicking up fine sand into swirling eddies. The drone climbed steadily, weaving through rocky outcrops in a graceful arc. Then, without warning, the left rotor sputtered, sputter-pop, and the craft pitched violently, crashing into the sand with a strangled whine. Jason's breath caught as he sprinted forward, tossing Mei's tablet aside. He knelt by the smoking drone, fingers shaking, murmuring, "Why now?" Mei knelt beside him and said quietly, "We'll fix this, we always do." Back in the cafe later that day, Jason confronted Mr. Patel with broken rotor shards in his palm. "It failed," he said softly, voice edged with shame. Patel's gaze hardened as he set down his espresso cup. He tapped the shards and asked, "Did you inspect for tampering?" Jason frowned, recalling only smooth, pre-flight checks. I don't know." Patel's eyes narrowed. "Someone had access to your lab overnight." Jason's chest tightened like a vice as Mei stepped forward, voice firm. "Our access logs show nothing unusual." Pei leaned back, glancing out at the sun-baked street beyond the glass. He said gravely, "Be wary. There are competitors who'll silence innovation." Jason's fingers curled around the rotor fragment, resolve flaring. He would uncover the truth. That evening in the shadowed robotics lab, Jason combed through thousands of security camera frames with Mei and 2 clubmates. The monitors glowed like ghostly windows into empty midnight corridors. Jason paused on a timestamp, showing a blurred figure near their station. His voice trembled. "There? Someone unplugged the power strip." May zoomed in and said, "Mask or hood, impossible to tell." Their peers exchanged anxious glances as desert wind rattled the lab's exterior vents. Jason slammed a fist on the table and declared, "They targeted us." May placed a steady hand on his shoulder, voice calm, "We rebuild stronger, and we expose them." In that charged silence, Jason's heart beat like a drum of defiance, ready to turn sabotage into the fuel for his greatest invention yet. Jason Hale crouched beneath the dim glow of a single overhead lamp in the robotics lab, his fingers deftly replacing the damaged rotor assembly with a reinforced magnesium-carbon composite part. Each precise twist of a micro screw echoed in the silent room like a heartbeat. Shadows of circuit boards and soldering irons flickered against concrete walls as Mei Lin hovered beside him, monitoring power outputs on her tablet. Jason whispered, "This alloy blend will survive greater stress." Mei nodded, voice soft but certain, "And our new encrypted firmware will counter any interference." He tested the stabilization controls, watching telemetry spike with each adjustment. Outside, the desert wind rattled window panes, as if challenging their resolve. Jason's brow furrowed when a warning icon blinked red. He tapped commands, recalibrating the AI failsafes. In that moment, he felt every setback converge into a single drive, to build a machine so robust no sabotage could halt its ascent. His eyes shone with unwavering determination as he closed the reinforced case and said quietly, "Let's show them real engineering." At dawn, Jason and May trudged across cracked pavement toward the Science Wing's rooftop, the sky a bruised gradient of purple and orange. They hauled battery packs and signal jammers to thwart any further tampering. Jason set up a discreet 360-degree security camera on a rusted railing, its wide-angle lens gleaming. May loaded encrypted firmware onto the drone's control board, murmuring, "Even if someone hacks the feed, we'll have manual override." He smiled grimly, recalling the blurred intruder on last night's security clips. Each cable plugged reinforced their defense against the unknown adversary. The city below awakened in muted haze as the first servo hummed to life. Jason tapped his watch to start synchronized logs, sweat beading on his temple despite the cool dawn breeze. He whispered, "Now we catch them in the act." May's nod was firm, her eyes alight with anticipation as she panned the camera across the rooftop's perimeter. Mid-morning, Jason activated the upgraded drone and watched through May's tablet as it ascended above the rooftop rail, its rotors slicing the rosy sky. The AI-guided stabilization corrected for sudden gusts, weaving between antenna masts with uncanny precision. He leaned in, voice trembling with excitement. "Altitude 50 meters. 100, 200. May's voice crackled in his earpiece. "Telemetry is rock solid." Together they tracked the drone as it executed loiter patterns, then extended solar panels that glowed like silver petals unfolding. Below, windows of the Science Wing reflected its silhouette against shimmering heat haze. Then, without warning, the rooftop camera's feed jolted, an orange blur darting across the frame. Jason's pulse spiked. Intruder? He hit the manual override and directed the drone to capture the figure. It banked sharply and swept low, lamps reflecting off a hooded intruder scrambling away. The lab bench popped with May's exclamation, "We caught them!" That afternoon in the principal's office, Jason and May confronted Vice Principal Grant, a stern 52-year-old male in a gray suit, who watched the security footage on his desktop. "Bow wow!" The intruder's hooded figure stuttered across the fence line before disappearing behind the HVAC units. Grant frowned and asked, "Why were you on the roof after hours?" Jason met his gaze, voice steady. "To secure our project from further sabotage." May added, "We believe a rival club member gained access to our lab." Grant leaned back, arms crossed, and said, "If you're right, we'll investigate." The principal's door opened and Robotics Club President Serena Park, an 18-year-old female in a club blazer, stepped in with a smug smile. She said, "I just came to congratulate Team Apex on the regional competition this weekend." Jason's jaw tightened as May shot him a warning glance. Serena's presence was no coincidence. As the day waned, Jason and May returned to the lab to prepare for the regional showcase. Under fluorescent lights, they pored over schematics and incident reports. Jason's voice was low. Serena was the only one with keycard access after hours. May's eyes narrowed, and she was in the club meeting when the power went out. He sketched a timeline on the whiteboard, each entry a ticking clock toward the weekend competition. The lab hummed with machines powering up prototype drones and displays. Jason looked up, determination flaring. "We'll expose her sabotage before we fly." May tapped his shoulder, voice resolute, "And then we'll win fair and square." Outside, twilight painted the windows in deep indigo as they sealed the lab door, forging a pact of truth and victory against betrayal. Jason Hale stood backstage at the Regional Robotics Expo, fluorescent panels overhead reflecting off polished concrete. He wore a navy blazer over his hoodie, heart pounding like rotors warming up. Beside him, Mei Lin adjusted her tablet's playback volume. He whispered, "Ready?" and she nodded, voice firm, "Let's unveil the sabotage." In a single breath, Jason stepped onto the stage and held the tablet aloft before a crowd of expectant judges and spectators. The screen flickered, then projected the hooded intruder footage across the large LED wall. Gasps rippled through the hall as Serena Park's confident smile froze into shock. Jason's voice rang clear, "This wasn't an accident." May's code scrolled beside the footage, tracing keycard logs in real time. Murmurs rose to a crescendo, then silence fell as Principal Ward leaned forward. Jason met her gaze and said softly, "Truth wins." As the lights dimmed, the judges conferred behind folding tables draped in deep red cloth. Jason and May stepped back, adrenaline coursing through their veins. Minutes stretched as whispers and speculative glances passed among the audience. Finally, Head Judge Morales tapped the microphone and announced, "Evidence confirmed. Sabotage attempt by Serena Park." A shocked murmur cascaded through the hall until Serena rose, face pale. Jason inhaled, remembering every moment of doubt and toil. Morales continued, "Team Apex advances to national finals, and disciplinary review will follow." The crowd erupted in applause. May exhaled a shaky laugh, voice trembling. "We did it." Jason's chest swelled with vindication, as he realized their integrity had soared higher than any drone. Later in the empty lab, Jason cradled the prototype drone in his hands, examining its gleaming rotors under cool lead strips. May uploaded final firmware updates while he tightened the last bolt. He murmured, "Nationals in 2 weeks, let's perfect flight time." She glanced up from her laptop, voice bright. "I've optimized power-to-weight ratio by 15%. Outside, desert wind rattled the lab windows. Jason smiled. "Fuel cells next?" May nodded, eyes alight with possibility, and live-stream telemetry. He closed the drone's hatch and said, "Well, show the world what true teamwork looks like." In that moment, the silent machines around them seemed to hum in agreement, ready to carry their dreams skyward. Dawn broke on the day of nationals as Jason and May arrived at the distant airfield, 2 carbon fiber cases in hand. The runway's asphalt gleamed under overcast skies, and chill gusts carried faint desert dust. They unloaded equipment alongside teams from across the state, each flaunting branded kiosks and cheering coaches. Jason paused, inhaling the cold morning air, then squared his shoulders and said, "Let's make history." May offered a confident grin. Together, they wheeled their custom cart to the flight line. Judges in orange vests stepped forward, clipboards ready. As Jason placed the drone on the launch pad, his chest thrummed with the echoes of every late night and setback. He pressed the ignition button and watched as the rotors sprang to life. This time, unbreakable, unstoppable. When the announcement came, "Team Apex, your turn," Jason exchanged a tense glance with May before stepping to the launch pad. He connected the ground cable while May signaled clearance. With a nod, Jason initiated the flight sequence. The drone lifted smoothly, climbing in precise concentric circles above the runway. Judges marked times as May narrated performance metrics into her tablet microphone. At 3 minutes, the drone deployed its solar wings mid-air, then accelerated to a steady 20 meters per second. Spectators murmured in awe as it performed programmed maneuvers and returned to hover within centimeters of its starting point. Jason exhaled, voice choked, landing confirmed. The field erupted in cheers. As he lifted the drone triumphantly, May whispered, "We did it." 2 days after Nationals, Jason Hale stepped into the glass-walled boardroom of Orion Ventures, heart pounding beneath his gray zip-up hoodie and navy blazer. The noon sunlight fractured through mirrored skyscrapers, casting prismed beams across the polished mahogany table. Mr. Patel sat at its head, flanked by 3 stern-faced executives in tailored suits, their silver pens tapping impatient rhythms on leather-bound folders. Jason carried the drone prototype case in one hand and May's tablet in the other, voice steady despite the skyscraper's vertigo-inducing height. He greeted, "Thank you for inviting Team Apex," and set the case before them. As he opened it with a soft click, the carbon fiber frame gleamed under recessed LEDs. Patel's gaze narrowed as he asked, "Walk us through the tech stack." Jason inhaled the scent of polished wood and ambition, recalling every late night and betrayal that led here, then began his presentation with unwavering clarity. As Jason detailed the drone's AI-guided navigation and solar recharge panels, Mei Lin sat beside him, tapping her tablet to display real-time flight analytics. The executives leaned in, eyebrows arched at wind resistance charts and predictive maintenance algorithms. One middle-aged female partner in charcoal tweed interrupted, "Impressive. Market potential." Jason met Patel's eyes before replying, "Global emergency logistics, beyond $2 billion annually." A ripple of murmurs passed through the room. Patel tapped notes, voice low. "Our firm can fast-track manufacturing and distribution." Jason felt a thrill ripple through his chest, longing to see his vision global. The executives exchanged glances, pens poised. In that moment, the boardroom felt like a launchpad and a trap, promise and peril intertwined in the sharp midday light. The lead executive, a silver-haired man in wire-rimmed glasses, cleared his throat and said, "We'll propose acquiring Team Apex IP for $5 million upfront, with royalty clauses thereafter." Jason's chest constricted as he processed the figure, microscopic compared to his drone's potential. May's hand trembled on the tablet. Jason swallowed, voice steady but firm. "Our vision is worth more than equity alone. We seek partnership, not sale." The executives conferred in hushed tones, their murmurs echoing like distant rotor hums. Patel's gaze flicked away. Jason felt a cold knot of betrayal tighten, recalling the sabotage, Serena's smirk, and Patel's earlier cautionary words. He realized the offer was a takeover disguised as support. His pulse hammered as he decided whether to seize the deal or defend his dream. Jason locked eyes with Patel and said, "You orchestrated Serena's sabotage to devalue our IP." The executives gasped as May played the time-stamped footage and security logs on the tablet. Patel's face paled before he masked shock with a tight smile. He replied, voice clipped, "Accusations require proof." Jason held up May's tablet, voice rising. "Here, keycard logs and camera feed. You and Serena colluded after hours." The boardroom fell into stunned silence, broken only by the hum of the city below. Patel's jaw clenched as he glanced at Serena's flushed face in the footage. Jason's pulse thrummed like a victory anthem as he continued, "We built this with integrity. We won't be bought or bullied." In the echoing hush, Patel rose and strode to Jason's side, placing a hand on his shoulder, voice low, "Your integrity inspires us. We retract the acquisition offer." The executives nodded, expressions shifting from disapproval to respect. Patel continued, "Instead, we'll fund your next phase. $10 million equity investment with full development autonomy." Jason's breath caught with disbelief and triumph. May squeezed his hand, eyes shining. Outside, sunlight fractured through glass, illuminating the prototype between them like a beacon. Jason exhaled, voice soft but unwavering, "We accept on our terms." In that moment, every bolt turned in the dark, and every whispered doubt transformed into the power to reshape the sky. and the boardroom. A month later, Jason Hale stood at the edge of a dusty airstrip in Arizona, beneath a searing midday sun. The sky was endless, brilliant blue, and cloudless. His now fully autonomous drone sat poised on a solar launch pad surrounded by news crews, venture capitalists, and humanitarian representatives. Mei Lin stood beside him, clutching a handheld terminal loaded with global delivery coordinates. "This is it," she whispered. Jason nodded slowly, voice low. "We fly to save lives today." Cameras clicked. A CNN anchor murmured into her mic, the 17-year-old who turned junkyard scraps into billion-dollar flight. Jason pressed the launch button. The drone's wings shimmered in the sun as it lifted with flawless grace. Cheers erupted. The first delivery capsule, tucked into its underbelly, was bound for a remote, flood-stricken village in Laos. In that moment, Jason's dream became not just flight, but legacy. In a sleek control center hundreds of miles away, rows of glowing screens tracked the drone's ascent, pathfinding through mountain passes, weather patterns, and air traffic corridors. Mei sat at the mission command station, headphones pressed tight. "Package passing into Myanmar airspace," she said calmly. Jason, now seated beside her, leaned forward, watching as red turned green on the monitor. International aid observers behind them broke into quiet applause. An official from the World Health Alliance said, "You've changed the supply chain forever." Jason turned, eyes damp with disbelief and pride, and replied, "We just connected the world's forgotten corners." With each dot blinking on the screen, he saw not tech, but people. Children waiting for medicine, villages waiting for hope. Days later, Jason stood before a UN summit in Geneva, flanked by world leaders and innovators. A translator's voice echoed his own words in 5 languages. "Technology is not a privilege," he said. "It's a responsibility." Delegates rose to their feet as he revealed future drone routes, covering underserved territories. Mei adjusted a slide behind him, showing a world map speckled with blue lines arching across continents. The applause that followed was thunderous. For the first time, Jason wasn't the boy with oil-stained fingers. He was a global pioneer. And in that instant he realized, his teenage garage was never small. It was just the runway for something boundless. Back home in the quiet of his old garage, Jason opened the dusty workbench drawer and pulled out his first wrench, the one he'd used to fix broken pedals and rusted chains. The bulb above flickered, just like it used to. He smiled faintly, placing the wrench on a shelf beside a miniature gold-plated drone model, gifted by Orion Ventures. Mei stepped inside with 2 mugs of coffee. "Everything started right here," she said. Jason nodded, setting the drone model next to a photo of Ortega, smiling in his worn flannel. "He always said the sky begins where you stop listening to doubt." They sipped in silence, the garage now a museum of defiance, grit, and skybound dreams. As evening settled, Jason walked alone up the hill behind his neighborhood, the sky streaked in orange and indigo. In the distance, his first full-scale production drone passed silently across the horizon, blinking like a lone star. He smiled, whispering, "Fly far." Behind him the world was watching, but in that sacred silence, he remembered everything: the grease, the ridicule, the triumph, and Mei's unwavering loyalty. The drone faded into the darkening sky, and Jason turned back toward the city, his silhouette strong against twilight. Because once he fixed bicycles, now he was fixing the world.